If we lose our nerve, if we flinch, if we fail to deter other would-be aggressors, we will only invite even more bloodshed and more chaos. We must not waver in our support for Ukraine.
This is my video update on this Tuesday midday, January the 23rd. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with this scoop via Axios. Israel proposes a 2-month fighting pause in Gaza for release of all hostages. According to Axios, Israel is proposing to Hamas via Qatari and Egyptian officials that there is a 2-month pause in the war in order to allow a very big prisoner exchange. Basically, all of the Israeli hostages being held by Hamas would be released, and a significant number of Hamas hostages and Palestinian prisoners would also be released. This would be the longest pause in the conflict in this war to date, but Axios was very specific in its reporting to say that the Netanyahu administration is saying that this is indeed a 2-month pause and not an end to the war, not a cessation to hostilities, just a 2-month pause. Axios did report that this 2-month pause would eventually lead to a shift in the war in Gaza from a high-intensity conflict to a low-intensity conflict. Between the lines, Israeli officials said they are ready to release a significant number of Palestinian prisoners if Hamas agrees to the offer. They admit if the deal is implemented, IDF operations in Gaza would be significantly smaller in scope and intensity after the 2-month pause in fighting. An off-ramp is the way I take this. An off-ramp, not an end to the war, because an end to the war would be very bad for Netanyahu. So this is a way for Netanyahu to keep the war going, to stay in power, but to shift to a low-intensity conflict, something that the Biden White House has been pressing the Netanyahu administration to implement, to shift from high intensity to low intensity. And this is what it gives the Netanyahu administration. It gives them a type of off-ramp while keeping the war going. It also gives the Biden administration an off-ramp to the war in Gaza as well. For the Biden White House, this low-intensity fighting will lead to less media coverage of the war in Gaza and less protesting to the war in Gaza. So that's what the Biden administration is most likely hoping for. A low-intensity conflict which will shift attention away from the war in Gaza, which has been doing a lot of damage to the Biden administration, especially for his re-election efforts in 2024. But this low intensity, this shift in low intensity fighting, if this is accepted by Hamas, we're awaiting Hamas's answer. According to Axios, Israeli officials are confident that Hamas will accept this offer. I'm not so certain, but maybe as the day goes on, we will get an answer from Hamas. Maybe by the time I publish this video, we will have had an answer from Hamas. But the Biden White House and the neocons in the Biden White House, maybe this is a way for them to also free up resources for a wider war with Iran and Yemen. So that could also be what's at play here. A 2-month pause, get the media attention away from Gaza, get the protester and activist attention away from Gaza, and shift all of these resources, military and media resources, towards the main target for the neocons and the Biden administration in the Middle East, and that is Iran and possibly a conflict with Yemen as well. So that could be what's at play here. But we'll wait and see. Let's see what the answer is from Hamas first, and we'll take it step by step. The EU, they are also trying to engage in diplomacy in the Middle East, and they're trying to push for a two-state solution. This is what Jungle Joseph Borrell said the other day. What we want to do is to build a two-state solution, so let's talk about it. The way you are naming it is important, so from now on, I will not talk about the peace process, but about the two-state solution process, Borrell said. If we are serious about that, we have to study the underlying causes that prevent this solution from being implemented. Certainly Hamas is one of them, an important one, but there are others. So that's the European Union and Joseph Borrell trying to make themselves appear relevant in the international stage. I don't think anyone is really taking the European Union or Jungle Joseph Borrell seriously. But you also have this alleged peace proposal that Saudi Arabia is also preparing, which, from what I understand from various reports, claims that this Saudi peace proposal will have a lot of backing and a lot of support from the international community. So perhaps everything that we're seeing from this proposal for a 2-month pause in fighting and a shift to a low intensity conflict, this could also be meant to remove some of the eventual momentum in the Saudi peace plan as well. The Netanyahu administration, the last thing they want is to have a two-state peace plan solution being floated out by Saudi Arabia, which would have a huge amount of support from the international community that would put Israel and the United States in a very difficult position. And maybe we are seeing a lot of diplomatic moves from the European Union, but notably from the Netanyahu administration and this 2-month hostage exchange idea as a way to circumvent the Saudi peace proposal that we're all waiting on. Anyway, a wider war with Iran, a possible wider war with Yemen. That is something that is brewing. And yesterday we had the US and the UK Air Force bombing Yemen. According to CENTCOM, US and UK forces conducted airstrikes on 8 Houthi targets in Yemen just before midnight. The targets included missile systems and launchers, air defense systems, radars, and deeply buried weapons storage facilities. According to CENTCOM, the strikes were carried out alongside UK armed forces and with the support of Australia, Bahrain, Canada, and the Netherlands. What is the overall purpose objective of these airstrikes into Yemen? Don't know. Don't know. Not even Biden, not even the president of the United States really knows what the overall objective is with these airstrikes into Yemen. But the EU, once again, the European Union, they want to get in on this Yemen Red Sea action. And they have announced that they are going to send ships into the Red Sea in order to protect ships that are moving through the Red Sea. So the European Union, they announced that they will send a naval mission to the Red Sea. Foreign ministers of the European Union have reached a tentative agreement to start a naval mission in the Red Sea. Jungle Joseph announced on Monday. Germany, France, and Italy have proposed the steps in response to requests from the Netherlands, whose merchant shipping has been impacted by the months-long Houthi attacks on vessels linked to Israel. Quote, "We have agreed in principle to start the EU mission in the Red Sea," Borrell said after the meeting, according to the Italian news agency ANSA. "Now we have to work on unanimity as to when it will start." So the EU is now going to be protecting Dutch ships crossing the Red Sea from Houthi pirates, Houthi strikes. Okay, let's see how that one is going to work out. We are heading towards a big escalation, a big false flag event. Something is going to happen. A 2-month pause in the fighting in Gaza. Just enough time to prepare the way for a different conflict in the Middle East, Iran and Yemen. I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this. We'll see. We will see. So let's shift gears now and talk about Ukraine and Elensky's decree. Yesterday, the clown puppet President Elensky, he announced a decree stating that 6 regions in Russia, not Donbass, not Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporozhye, Kherson, not those regions, but 6 regions in mainland Russia are Ukrainian, are historically Ukrainian. This is the decree from Elensky. The Telegraph reports Ukraine-Russia war, Russian regions historically Ukrainian, Elensky claims. Now the regions that Elensky is talking about includes Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod regions, all of which border Ukraine. It also lists Voronezh, Rostov, and Krasnodar regions, all of which bordered Ukraine before 2014, when Crimea decided to join Russia in a referendum and the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics declared independence from Kiev. Zelensky claimed the population of these territories had been subjected to the policy of forced Russification and ordered the government in Kiev to develop an action plan to preserve Ukrainian national identity in Russia. And to this claim from Elensky, Medvedev replied on Telegram, the senior Ukrainian drug addict made a simple propaganda move caused by a failure at the front. Ruthlessly blowing a double dose, he signed a decree on territorial claims against Russia on lands historically inhabited by Ukrainians. There is nothing to comment on here, since Ukrainians are Russians and Little Russia is part of Russia. And it's time for the main Ukrainian to quit, so he will soon annex Canada. So what is going on here? Well, delusion, yes, absolutely. As I said in my video update yesterday, the more Ukraine loses, the more delusional Elensky and his officials become. But I think there's something more at play here. And I think this has to do with the reports about Budanov, the rumors about Budanov taking over for Zelensky and what might be a CIA possible shift from a conventional war to an insurgency, guerrilla terror type of war. I think that that the CIA and Zelensky, well, what the CIA put Zelensky up to do is, and I'm just saying the CIA, MI6, whatever, What they are trying to do is build the narrative of a Ukraine government in exile, a Ukraine history that has been Russified, and a guerrilla war type of story, a guerrilla war against Russia type of narrative. That's what I think is going on. You guys know what I mean? Is this making sense? That's what I think this is all about. That's what I think all of this is about. They're getting a head start on writing this fake history of Ukraine and Ukrainians being Russified and all of these lands as being part of a historical Ukraine. And so this is the guerrilla insurgency conflict that the freedom fighters are going to engage in against the Russian colonizers. And this could be done via a government in exile in Lviv, or perhaps a government in exile in Poland or Lithuania or whatever. That's what I believe is going on. The same day that Elensky made this decree, he also called on Ukrainians, the diaspora of Ukrainians living abroad. He said that they are now eligible for dual citizenship. So anyone with any type of Ukrainian lineage is now eligible to also become a citizen of Ukraine. And that feeds into my theory that this is about creating a larger story of some larger Ukrainian society, diaspora, history that is now fighting against the Russian colonizers. That's what's at play. That is what I believe is at play. Let's see, what did Elensky say about this dual citizenship plan? Today I am submitting to the Verkhovna Rada a key draft law that will allow the adoption of comprehensive legislative amendments and the introduction of multiple citizenship, Elensky said in a video address, and it will allow all ethnic Ukrainians and their descendants from around the world to have our citizenship, of course, except for citizens of the aggressor country. Yeah, he wants to get, Ukrainians with a Canadian passport to also get a Ukrainian passport, to have dual citizenship in Canada and Ukraine, in the United States and Ukraine, and you start to build this movement, a larger movement of Ukrainians who are fighting the Russian occupiers and the Russian colonizers. That's what this is all about. Because the intel agencies, I believe the collective West intel agencies, have understood that the conventional war is lost. And they're getting a head start on shifting to this insurgency war. Maybe the conventional war will end in a year or 2 years, maybe in 3 months, I don't know, but they're getting a head start. And they're starting to rewrite victory. What's the phrase? It's the victors that write the history, or the history is written by the victors. Well, the collective West, they're going to turn that one upside down, and it's going to be the losers that are going to try and write the history. But the collective West, one thing that they still do have is a very strong hold on the information space. So they can make an attempt to rewrite the history and to make it seem like Russia has colonized Ukrainian lands, and now Ukrainians throughout the world are going to be fighting against the Russian baddies, right? That's going to be the narrative. It's preparation for an insurgency war. That's going to be my prediction, and I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But something tells me they're getting a head start on building this narrative. Anyway, Donald Tusk, he was in Poland, and even Donald Tusk, the ultimate EU puppet, he has understood that the conflict in Ukraine is over and that the Ukraine military has lost, because Donald Tusk, he went to Kiev. He shook Elensky's hand. He has now been hit with the Elensky curse, so it's only a matter of time for Donald Tusk. But he didn't hand over money to Elensky. He didn't just give Elensky a check, no strings attached. Nope. Donald Tusk, he told Elensky, look, I will give you credit. I will give you credit, cash, but credit, a loan. And with this loan, you can buy weapons. That was what Donald Tusk gave to Elensky. A loan, credit for weapons. Poland can no longer supply weapons to Ukraine free of charge and will provide military assistance to Kiev on a commercial basis, said Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk during a visit to Kiev. Zelensky said that Ukraine will purchase weapons from Warsaw on credit. Elensky asked for this, didn't he? Remember his interview to NBC? What was it, Meet the Press or Face the Nation, whatever that show is called, where Elensky said, give me loan, give me credit. I will take loan, I will take credit. Well, he's getting what he asked for, and Poland's going to give him credit. You buy the weapons from us, here's the loan. There we go. It is an admission from Poland and from Tusk that this conflict is lost. It is lost. And there's a German publication, Süddeutsche Zeitung, which is claiming as much, that the European Union officials, they understand that this conflict is over and they are starting to prepare for the Russian victory. As German journalist writes, the new meeting of EU foreign ministers in Brussels, where the military situation in Ukraine will be discussed, will be more critical than usual. The reason is the grim military situation. The Ukrainian armed forces are weakened due to the failed counteroffensive. Russian armed forces are advancing in various sectors of the front, and U.S. help is not expected for a long time. Therefore, there are fears in Europe that the Ukrainians may lose the war this year, or at least face serious difficulties, the German publication writes. The journalists also claim that the Kiev regime transmits false information to Brussels and feeds European officials with beautiful fairy tales. So that is from this German publication, as posted by Yeroman, the Twitter X account of Yeroman. And the EU officials are now also saying that, Ukraine, they were feeding us false information. The Ukraine media was spinning a false narrative as to how well things were going in the war. We thought that Ukraine was winning because the Zelensky regime was telling us that they were winning. Don't blame us, citizens of Europe. It was the Zelensky regime spinning fantasy, beautiful fairy tales, and we trusted them. We believed them. Not our fault. That is what the EU is going to go with. They are going to pin the blame on Ukraine, Zelensky, and the Zelensky media, feeding them false information. And the gullible Europeans, they believed that false information. Little did they know that Russia was actually winning the conflict. Who would have guessed? Maybe they should have been watching the Duran. Oh, man. So, the Institute for the Study of War, they are reporting, and this is the Victoria Nuland's sister or sister-in-law or whatever, Nuland Kagan family think tank. They are reporting that Avdiivka is collapsing. Ukrainian defenses around Avdiivka are collapsing, specifically in the south and southwest. The Institute for the Study of War think tank said it had confirmed Russian advances to the south and southwest of the settlement of Avdiivka. One Ukrainian observer said Russian soldiers had advanced along two main streets into Avdiivka from the west and south, but the ISW said it could not confirm the claim. It also geolocated combat clashes to the northwest of Bakhmut, west of Donetsk City, and south of Rabotyne. Ukraine is shifting its military strategy to active defense after its counteroffensive last year failed to deliver significant gains. And they say that Ukraine is now building up defenses in anticipation of a Russian offensive. They're basically taking the Russian playbook, building up defenses, anticipating a big Russian spring counteroffensive. So now Ukraine is building up their defenses. And Shoigu, he said a couple of weeks ago, and Putin, they said a couple of weeks ago that Russia is not even on the offensive at this moment. They are in active defense. And now we see Ukraine basically saying the same thing about their military strategy. They're just lifting it from Russia. They're saying that they're the ones in active defense. Russia's not the one in active defense. We're the ones in active defense. It just seems like they're taking everything that Russia's doing and they're just transferring it over to their military and to their military narratives, their military objectives. Building defenses, active defense. That's what Ukraine is up to. But Avdiivka is collapsing. Avdiivka is absolutely collapsing. At least the south and the southwest is collapsing. I believe the coke plant is in the north. If I'm not mistaken, that's where the coke plant is located. And that is going to be the one area of Avdiivka, possibly the one area in all of Ukraine that Elensky will defend until the very end. Podolyak, we must defend coke plant until the very end. The coke plant cannot fall. Mr. President, how many times do I have to tell you it's not that kind of coke plant? I don't care. I don't care. Coke plant must not fall. that's going to be the one area that Elensky himself is going to go to defend. It's going to be the coke plant. Not realizing that it's not that type of coke, Mr. President. Oh man. So let's how we doing on time? I think we're doing okay on time. And I can do a couple of more stories before we get to our clown world. An update on the Balochistan. Remember that incident that happened between Iran and Pakistan, the Balochistan area, and the missiles that were fired from Iran to Pakistan and then Pakistan to Iran? Well, in that video that I made a couple of days ago, I said that most likely things will calm down, or at least I was hoping that things would calm down. Something was going on there. There was some sort of escalation that was tried, but it didn't work out. And sure enough, that seems to be the case, according to the Twitter X account of Iran Observer. Breaking: the ambassadors of Iran and Pakistan will return to their respective embassies by the 26th of January. Pakistan has also invited Iran's foreign minister to visit the country. So it looks like whatever was tried in this region to try and get some sort of instability or something going between Iran and Pakistan, it looks like that has failed for now. So that's an update on that story. And what else? From Germany, according to the Financial Times, in an interview with the Financial Times, Alice Weidel of the AfD-led government said that Germany would seek to reform the EU to wrest back national sovereignty from the unelected executive that is the European Commission. Should this fail, she said that she would let the people decide whether or not the country would stay in the Union, just as Britain did. A German exit from the EU. if the AfD comes to power. That would be interesting. That would be appropriate, actually. What Germany needs to do in order to save Germany, what they need to do is they need to ditch the European Union. AfD and Vidal, she is absolutely correct. Put it to a referendum and let the Germans vote. Though I would imagine that if it was put to a referendum, I would imagine that Germans would vote to remain in the European Union, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Could be wrong about that. But that's the right approach. That is the right approach. Try to reform these unelected officials in Brussels, which you will not be able to do, and then move it to a vote. And Germany can be saved if it exits the European Union. Absolutely. So let's do a clown world and we'll wrap this video up. And in this clown world, we return to Elensky and the myth of Churchill, the myth that Elensky is Churchill. And we may have an origin story. This is the Churchill-Elensky origins story. And according to the former Ukrainian ambassador to the UK, Vadim Pristako, and this is coming from the Telegram account of Slaviangrad. So according to the former Ukrainian ambassador to the UK, before my eyes, during President Zelensky's visit to the Churchill Museum, in the bunker, there was an employee there, and there was Churchill's chair where he sat making decisions. And Zelensky says, "And what is this?" "That's Churchill's chair." This museum worker said to Elensky, "Would you like to sit down?" Elensky said, "May I?" The employee says, "No, you can't, but would you like to?" He sat down and he says, "Do you feel something? Do you feel like Churchill?" Everybody laughed. Elensky said, "I do feel something like that in me." And there you have it, everyone. The Elensky-Churchill origins story. Zelensky went to the museum. He sat down in Churchill's chair, something which they should not have allowed him to do. If I was in Britain and I heard that they allowed that clown puppet to sit in Churchill's chair, I would be furious. But anyway, they allowed him to sit in the chair, even though you're not supposed to. And Elensky, he felt Churchill's spirit move through him, and there you have it. And he's been pretending that he's been Churchill ever since. He's internalized the whole Churchill thing, and there you have it. That is the origin story of Elensky as the next Churchill. That's the video, everyone. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. 15% off all t-shirts. Take care.